Remember who's pulling the strings. Who to stick first? Gotcha! I love this part. I'm right behind them. Remember who's pulling the strings. Gotcha! Who to stick first? Oh yes. Gotcha! Who to stick first? Gotcha! Remember who's pulling the strings. Oh yes. Remember who's pulling the strings. Who to stick first? Gotcha! I love this part. Remember who's pulling the strings. I love this part.
Đạp điêu, tin sỏ. หัวงูรวมฟันอย่าจองหองพวกสามหาว
No one will help you. Remember who's pulling the strings. I love this part. Gotcha. Who to stick first? I love this part. Remember who's pulling the strings. I love this part. Gotcha. Who to stick first? Oh yes. So close, so close.
เอาล่ะครับกรรมการเป่านกหวีดเริ่มเกมคนดูเต็มทุกที่นั่งพังกันยับแน่แมตช์นี้
Who to stick first? Remember who's pulling the strings. I love this part. Remember who's pulling the strings.
In your face!
Gotcha. Who to stick first? I love this part.
ยังง่ายเกิน
Remember who's pulling the strings. Who to stick first? Don't run now. Gotcha. Oh yes. I love this part. Remember who's pulling the strings. I love this part. Oh yes. Who to stick first? Gotcha. Remember who's pulling the strings. Gotcha. Remember who's pulling the strings. Who to stick first? Who to stick first? Gotcha. Remember who's pulling the strings.
อัพหน้าจอทหารพราน
And the cutting we will go. Cutting we will go. Gotcha.
Legend of light.
So close, so close. Gotcha. Who to stick first?
Onward.
Oh. ไป
One stab at a time. I love this part. No one will help you. Who to stick first? I love this part. Gotcha. Remember who's pulling the strings. Oh, yes. Remember who's pulling the strings. Oh, yes. Gotcha. So close, so close.
Again and again and
Oh, yes.
again.
I love this part. Who to stick first? I love this part. No one will help you. Descends upon you.
My brilliance is blinding.
It's time to play. Oh, yes. Who to stick first? Remember who's pulling the strings. Oh. I love this part. No one will help you. I'm right behind them. Gotcha. Remember who's pulling the strings. I love this part. Remember who's pulling the strings. Gotcha. I love this part. Gotcha. I love this part. Gotcha. Who to stick first? Remember who's pulling the strings. Oh, yes. Gotcha. Remember who's pulling the strings. Who to stick first? I love this part. Don't run now. Remember who's pulling the strings.
ปีนเผามันเลยสูตายแอดแรกสองเลยโอ้ยมันแมนบอ
Cleanse them.
กูสิบน้อมเสยจัดไปเลยสาม
Who to stick first? Gotcha. I'm right behind them. Oh, yes. Remember who's pulling the strings. I told you to wait. Gotcha.
เพชรฆาตในตำนาน
Oh yes. Remember who's pulling the strings. Who to stick first? I love this part. Oh yes. Gotcha. Oh yes. I love this part. Gotcha. Remember who's pulling the strings. Gotcha. I love this part. Remember who's pulling the strings. Who to stick first. Remember who's pulling the strings. Oh yes. No one will help you. In your face. Remember who's pulling the strings. Who to stick first. Gotcha. Oh yes. Don't run now. I love this part. Who to stick first? I love this part.
Plans that
Remember who's pulling the strings. Who to stick first?
โอ้โหไอ้สัตว์เอ้ยไม่ได้
เฮ้ยนี่มึงเอาเด็กอนุบาลหรือคนพิการมาแข่งวะกูนึกว่าเกณฑ์หมู
Remember who's pulling the strings. I love this part. Who to stick first? Remember who's pulling the strings. Gotcha.
เกแล้ว
I'm right behind them. Who to stick first? Remember who's pulling the strings. I'm only for ages 9 and up.